okay, you're ready for the academy. I said, the academy? Now I'm 73 years old. So I was 69. I said, the academy? So I joined the academy. It took me 5 months. I thought I was going to die, but I couldn't quit. It was harder than when I was in basic training at 18. I was doing all the push-ups, the sit-ups, yes sir, no sir. So now I'm a cop. That's it. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I'm a Jewish cop. I write in my book about, there were some men in my neighborhood that were kind of rough. We used to go to an Italian restaurant on North Avenue called Luigi's. Does anyone remember that? You do. Remember the big sign out in front? 100 yards of spaghetti. The guy who owned it, he looked like Al Pacino. He used to wear silk suits. He had a beautiful wife named Connie. Yeah, one of these guys. So one day, I'm reading Chicago Sun-Times, and it said, man found in the trunk of a car in the Chicago River. It was him, Al. Al. Then, I had a friend named Mervyn Duckett, very rich guy. I grew up with him. He owns hot dog stands all over the city of Chicago. It's called Ducks. His father, he went by Harry Brown. So I used to think, why is his father Harry Brown and this guy's Duckett? I found out later when I read the book, Jewish Gangsters. Harry Brown had been partners at one time with Al Capone and Lucky Luciano. And I remember one day, I was with his friend Mervyn, his son, and Harry was coming home from wherever, got out of a car, and a car drove by and they shot at him. They didn't hit him. So I write about all that stuff in my book. My father, I remember my father when I was about 12 years old. He said, come with me, Boychik. He said, I got to give an estimate for a paint job. And he said, sit in the car and wait. We went to River Floors. And he's gone a long time, and finally he comes back. His face was white as a ghost. I said, what happened? He said, you won't believe this. He said, I knocked on the door. They opened the door. I come in, and 3 guys put guns to my head. And then a big man comes out from the other room. He said it was Tony Accardo, Big Tuna. And so these guys, he said, what's going on? And these guys said, this man's a G-man. And Big Tuna said, he's not a G-man, he's a painter. So my father told that story the rest of his life. I write in my book about some men that played a big influence in my life. One of them was an Italian immigrant, a great, great man. His name was Andy Passavanto. When I grew up in the Division Street area, our apartments, the entryway was called vestibule. I don't know if they still call it that, do they? And we all had janitors. And the janitors lived in the basement. And they got paid very little, but they had free rent. They lived in the basement. I remember coming home in the winter. Our favorite pastime was belly flopping in the snow on the streets. So I'd come home all covered with snow, and I'd always see Andy Passavanto in the vestibule. And he smelled from perspiration from a hard day's work. And this sweet man would put his arm around me and he'd say, listen. He'd say, I want you to listen. Go to college. Health you can lose. Money you could lose. No one could take education away from you. And it stayed with me. I thought about that my entire life. Another one was a Jewish man named Maury who owned a hot dog stand on Lawndale off of Lawrence Avenue near Roosevelt High School. Wonderful man. He put 2 boys through Harvard owning the hot dog stand. And when I got depressed, I was driving a cab and going to Roosevelt University part-time. I'd go to see Maury, he'd lift my spirits. He'd say, don't quit, you're going to make it. So I write about that. The businesses on Division Street, I want to give you a little profile. There were a lot of characters. The most famous or infamous was Nate's Barber Shop. Does anyone remember that? Well, Nate the Barber was my uncle. And he became the chief clerk of Cook County. He could not read, he could not write. But he knew Alderman Kane. Remember Alderman Kane? And Alderman Kane was Mayor Daley's right-hand man. If someone got a ticket, they went to Nate and they paid Nate directly. Speaking of tickets, when I started driving at the age of 16,